Okay, well, what we're doing here is getting ready to start the second refining process of Karat scrap. You saw where I did the weigh up of the Karat scrap and the calculations to put the silver and all that, and that's in a previous video. What I did was I got a set of torches, and I did the inquartation right here at home. Unfortunately, I had a malfunction with the camera and I didn't realize it till I was completely done, so you're not going to get to see that this time, but I will tell you that I'll take the torches out. I have a little project I want to try. It doesn't have anything to do with this particular process, but it's something else I want to try, and I'll see if I can make a video of that. So anyway, I did this inquartation, and what we have here is well, it should be 65 grams of pure gold mixed in with silver, and it's just sitting in distilled water now. It's been sitting that way overnight, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it one more rinse with distilled water, and then we'll add some nitric and start the boil. Okay, so we'll take off the cover, shake that around a little bit, and we'll dump off that. That's the distilled water it's been sitting in overnight. We want to make sure we get all the chlorinated water out of this before we start the nitric treatment. We don't want any chlorine getting into the nitric. So a little more distilled water. And we'll give it one more rinse. Okay. And we're not going to keep this on the heat like that, so we'll put a little Corningware dish on there, and we're going to add some nitric acid and distilled water to this. What I have is on my previous refining, I have some dilute nitric acid used right here, and some dilute nitric acid. This was actually the fifth refining, the fifth boil on the last nitric acid, and this, you can see how this acid is like crystal clear, so I'm sure that there is a lot of power still left in that nitric. So what we're going to do, we're going to use this up first. I'll put that in there. Should come to maybe the 300 mark. We'll just put it all in. A little more. It's up to about 450, maybe 500. But anyway, it's in there. We'll let this nitric dissolve. Turn on the heat, let it cook. You can see it now, it's just starting to fume up. You can see the orange fumes. It's only been about 2 minutes, but whatever nitric is left in there is starting to work. So we'll just let this go a little while, and we'll see what we have in 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, it's been about 8 minutes now. We're just starting to get a good rolling boil on the used dilute nitric acid that's in there on the first boil of this inquarted gold, and as you can see, we've got nice orange red fumes being produced, and there was definitely nitric acid left, and that nitric acid is now attacking the silver and other base metals that are in this inquartation, and we'll just let it go for a little while until the fumes disappear. Then all the nitric will be gone, and we'll do it again. So we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, it's been about 17 minutes now, 18 minutes. We still have a good boil going on. We're still making fumes. We're still getting orange fumes. However, the fumes are not as concentrated as they were before, so I'm thinking that the nitric is in this solution is starting to wane, starting to dissipate or lose its power. But anyway, what we're going to do, we're going to let it keep on boiling. We're going to wait till this clears up, till it'll be clear or mostly clear. We won't be getting red fumes coming out, and then we'll pour that off into this large beaker, and we'll be adding some more dilute nitric left over from the 5th boil of the last refining that I did, and then we'll do this again. So we are 19 minutes in now, and we'll just let it go. Okay, it's been about 40 minutes now. As you can see, we have no more fume production, or 0 to 1% fume production. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn off the heat, and we're going to transfer this solution into this beaker. And add more nitric acid, more dilute nitric acid from the previous refining left over into this beaker, and start our second boil. We'll just wait for that to settle down just a little bit. Okay, hot gloves. Yeah, we'll gently pour this off. And we put this beaker inside this Corning ware just in case something happens to the beaker. We won't make a big mess, and also we won't lose anything. There's a lot of silver in this solution as well as copper. I don't really care about the copper, but I want to get my silver back. So it's getting more gold looking. A lot of the silver and base metals have dissolved. They're in this solution right here. And I'm just going to give this a little rinse. With distilled water. And put it back in there, and we're going to take some dilute nitric acid, and I'm going to take my get my hot gloves off of this because I don't want to drop it. And I don't have a really good grip of these hot gloves. So dilute nitric acid. We'll go to maybe the okay. We'll go to maybe the 250 to 300 mark. We'll take it to 300. We haven't got much left. We'll put it all in. Let's rinse this out. Turn the heat on, and second boil, let's get it cooking. Second boil starting at 8:24. Okay, we're 5 minutes into the second boil. You see we're already starting to get some fume production. Not really anything escaping through the top, but you can see it's starting to turn orange, so it's just starting to heat up. We're going to have some probably good action pretty soon. We'll let this run for a few seconds and keep an eye on it. I don't think it's quite ready to boil yet. It's getting close. We'll come back. Okay, we're 10 minutes in to the second boil. You can see we're getting some very strong fume production. Can't really see it. I have a fan on behind me, but there are fumes coming out. See the red fumes come out. And if I remember right, on my first refining, the second boil took 1 hour and 45 minutes. For some reason or the second boil takes longer than the first. So we'll see how it goes. We'll continue to monitor it. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay with it until it's done. And we'll just let it cook, and we'll come back and we'll keep track of the time. Second boil. Okay, it's been going about 40 minutes now, and as you can see, we're still getting, well, that light doesn't really do any good. Yeah, it's nighttime over here, but you can see we're still getting fume production. It's not really visible in the camera a lot, but I can see it clearly that I'm still getting fume production, and I have to let it boil. The nitric acid is still working. As you can see, it's gone down. It started, we were at 400 milliliters in here. We're down to 3. So some of the water is boiled off. Maybe a little bit of the acid, but there is water in the acid as well. However, we're down to 300 milliliters. When we get down to about 250, I think I'm going to hydrate it with about 50 milliliters of distilled water and continue to let it boil until we have no more orange in there, no more fume production. So we'll let it boil. Okay, this has been on for 1 hour now, and you can see there is still orange fumes. There is still free nitric in there. Also, this started, if you remember, you wind back a little bit, you can look. It started at the 400 ml mark, we're down to the 200 ml mark. So what we're going to do is we're going to hydrate it a little bit. I'm just going to add, maybe 50 milliliters or so of distilled water. It's about 75 or 80, but anyway, just to give it some hydration. All the distilled water is apparently boiled off, and we'll let it continue to boil. It's been 1 hour. Second boil. Okay, it's been 1 hour and 15 minutes, and as you can see, there is almost no fume production. Just a slight, you can see it, it's barely, it's a slight bit of yellow-orange fumes coming off of it. Also, we're back down to the 200 ml level, so all that water I added is just about gone. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn off the heat, and we're going to start our third boil. So we're going to transfer this solution into this beaker. Let me get my hot gloves on. Okay. Kind of curious to see what this looks like. Okay. We'll pour off this solution. We can give it a little rinse. Give it one more rinse. And try to get all the old solution out of there. Coming out pretty clear now, but we got about all of it. And let's see what it looks like. It's turning brown. Brown is nice. A lot of the silver is gone. There is, I would say, more silver and base metal in there, and we're going to go after that right now. I'm going to put that back in the pan. Get rid of these hot gloves. We're going to put about 200 milliliters of distilled water. About 200. about 200 milliliters of concentrated nitric acid. This is fresh. I don't have any more used. Matter of fact, we're gonna measure it so we get it right. I want 200. Look at that fuming, isn't that nice? Crank the heat up. Let it cook. Okay, you can see we have fresh nitric in there, and we're getting pretty good fume production. So we're just going to let this boil for a while. We are 6 minutes into it, but all I can say, we're going to let it cook, and we'll see where it goes. Let it cook. Okay, we are 15 minutes into the third boil. As you can see, we're still making really good fume production. We got a good boil going on here. So we're just going to let this cook until those fumes clean up, and we'll go from there. Probably the last boil I'm going to do tonight, because right now it's about 10 o'clock. I'm thinking this will go for about another hour, so about 11 o'clock I'll be spent. But we'll let this go, let this cook, and hopefully it'll clean up the fumes, that is. We'll be back. Okay, this is the third boil, and it's been an hour now. And as you can see, this has got the virgin full strength nitric acid 50-50 with distilled water. After 1 hour, we're still getting fume production, so we're going to let it go for a little while longer. But you can see that we started off, we were over 400 milliliters, probably around 425. Now we're at around 250. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's take the cover off. Excuse me. Too many beers. Anyhow, we're going to take this little beaker, this 250 beaker. We got a little bit of nitric acid left in this bottle of concentrated nitric acid. It is 69.8%. Anyway, there's a little bit left, so we're gonna pour that into this flask. See how much we have. And it seems we have right about 75 milliliters. So we're going to add 75 milliliters of distilled water. Bring it up to 150. 50-50 mix. Let's shake it around a little bit. Whoops. Oopsie. Anyway. And we'll slowly pour it in here. See if we get a flare up. Well, it looks like we're going to be good. So we'll get all that in there. And we'll rinse this beaker out. So we're back up to the 400 milliliter mark. And we'll cover it and let it boil. So we'll let it keep on boiling. This is still the third boil. I've added 75 milliliters of nitric acid and 75 milliliters of distilled water. So it's just the same batch, rehydrated, boil some more. And it's been 1 hour and 5 minutes on this boil. Okay, it's been an hour and a half on this third boil. You know that I've added at about the 45-minute mark, I think it was. I added 75 mLs of nitric acid and 75 mLs of distilled water. And it's been fuming pretty good, but as you can see right now, the fumes have just about cleared up. It's a little hot. I can't really grab it right now, but let me put my hot glove on. The fumes have just about cleared. We're still getting a good boil, but as you can see how nice and brown we are now? We're starting to get that caramel color, which is what I'm really looking for. So, like I said, there are no fumes, but I have my doubts that that 75 milliliters of nitric acid is used up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this go another 15 minutes or so and take a look at it in 15 minutes and see what it looks like. And we'll go from there. As you can see, I shook it up a little bit and we're starting to get some orange fuming action. So there's still base metals and silver to be dissolved. So we'll let it go a little while longer. Okay, it's been 1 hour and 45 minutes on this third and a half nitric boil. I did rehydrate it at a 45-minute mark with 75 mLs of nitric acid and 75 mLs of distilled water, and as you can see right now, it's not fuming anymore. The product looks pretty good. The solution is nice and clear. The glass is nice and clear. The flashlight doesn't do it any good, but you can tell it's clear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the heat and take off the watch glass and transfer this solution into this beaker. However, I think there's a lot of silver in here. You can see the color compared to the beaker down there. I think there's a lot of silver in here, but I also think there's free nitric. So what I'm going to do is, I have a silver coin. I'm going to put this silver coin in here, in this beaker, right now. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, I guess you can. I'll drop it right in there. So the silver coin is in there. I'm going to pour up this solution in here, and what that silver coin is going to do is it's going, if there's any free nitric in this solution, it will be used up dissolving that silver coin. So when I go to drop all the silver out of this solution, there won't be any free nitric left over. So, and I'm going to recover all my silver as well as that silver coin, and if it's half dissolved, that's okay. I'll use it in a future refining or whatever. Just what I mean is, it's a brand new nice silver coin, 1 ounce silver coin, but it won't be lost. So anyhow, I know there's free nitric in there. I just got a whiff of it. But anyhow, let's pour this solution, silver solution, into this beaker. I'm seeing the gold, and it looks pretty good in there. It looks nice and caramel colored. Look at the gold. Nice caramel brown. And I'm getting nitric fumes, so all the nitric was not used up. So I'm going to give this a rinse, probably a couple of rinses. I want to get everything that's left over out of this. I'll put I'll pour off all this cleaning water into my silver beaker. Because when I do my 4th boil, I want to see how, I want the solution to stay clear. So we'll rinse this out. Just little rinses. Doesn't have to be a lot, just enough to get all the free surface nitric out. You can see the solution is still a little bit tinted blue. It's okay, that's what we want to rinse out of there. And there's our inquarted gold that's no longer inquarted. It has all the base metals removed, or most of them. Give it another rinse. That looks pretty clear. I'm still seeing a little bit of blue come out. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to boil it in distilled water and see if I can rinse it out. Crank the heat. Cover it with distilled water. That should be enough just to cover it. And we'll let that boil. We'll come back when it's boiling. I don't know if you can see this, but you can see in the bottom of this beaker, You can see my silver coin down there, and it's being dissolved. There is no heat on this, but the coin is being dissolved, so there was absolutely excess nitric inside, most likely inside that last boil off that I poured in here, and it's dissolving the silver, using up the excess nitric. So when I go to drop the silver out of here, when I add the copper, it'll just drop out instead of being delayed by the nitric having to burn off, and it could take a long time with the copper, but this is just going to make everything speed up the process later on. But you can see it. That silver, 1 ounce silver coin is being dissolved. Okay, it's pushing midnight. I'm about spent for today. We're cleaning the third nitric boil, just with distilled water. And this is actually the second one. I did one already, and then I poured it back in there and put some more distilled water in here to rinse it out. And you can see that this water is practically crystal clear. So what we're going to do is we're going to pour that off in here, that rinse water. Turn off the heat. I also want to show you that, I don't know, it's been about a half hour. The silver coin, I don't know if you can see it. Let's see. The silver coin is still dissolving in the excess nitric acid that was in, most likely in the last batch that I poured out of the third boil into here. The one where I added 75 milliliters. I probably shouldn't have done that. I probably should have just saved that and gone into a fourth boil. But that's neither here nor there. So this silver is still dissolving. There might not even be a coin there left in the morning. But whatever the case may be, we'll just let that dissolve. And we'll take this off the heat with our gold in it. We're going to pour off this rinse water into our silver beaker. So this gold is nice and rinsed, and I'll tell you what, it looks pretty. Looks pretty to me. Looks like it's quite a bit. Probably a couple ounces anyway. There should be a couple ounces in there. That's what I started with. That's what I calculated from my Karat scrap. But it looks pretty nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover my silver jar. Put that to the side. I'm going to cover my gold with distilled water. And just let that sit overnight. And I think what I'm going to do, we'll just let that sit overnight. And I think what I'm going to do is tomorrow I'm going to do a fourth nitric boil on here and see what we get, to see if we get any more silver come out, or if it's clear and it stays clear, what I'll do is I'll test the solution and see if there's any silver in it. And if there is silver in it, that means we still got a little more boiling to go. Now, I guess it's possible that all the copper is gone, but there's still silver coming out, but we'll find that out tomorrow. So, in that case, that'll be it for this video. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll add to it. But anyway, that's it for tonight. It's midnight and I'm going to bed. Good night.